My sister Andrea wanted this previously painted side table to be repainted in Wedgewood Blue. This requires some color mixing to get an exact match. So today I'm sharing how to mix a custom paint color with no mess, no fussing with numerous paint colors, and no guesswork. Just let me get set up and I'll be right back. Let's start. Here's the fun part. Here's the original roadside wood table. This is how it looked back in 2017 before I painted it with the DIY chalk paint recipe. And here's what my sister wanted changed. It was originally painted in a chalky recipe with a paint color called Dijon, and now she wanted it in Wedgewood Blue. Today I'm sharing a shortcut that will save you time and money, and you'll have the perfect matched paint color mixed every single time. There were two ornate hardware knobs that I removed from this side table. I had purchased them years ago from Hobby Lobby for 50% off, and even though they are older, I still love them, so I'm holding on to them for another project. The inside and outside of this table were cleaned with white lightning. I wiped it down a few times and then used clean water to remove any residue. I have to say, the original DIY chalky paint finish held up awesome. It was in really, really good shape. But seeing as I was giving it another coat of paint, I gave it a quick scuff sanding using a 100 grit sandpaper and my Bosch sander. This gave the surface a little tooth for good paint adhesion. And then using a tack cloth, I removed all the sanding dust before painting. After it was all scuff sanded, I went back into my paint room, laid down a drop cloth, and got ready to mix some paint. Now for the fun part. So here's my secret of getting the perfect paint mix every single time. And this program is free to use. So I let the program do the dirty work for me. I go to dixiebelle.com. I go to their color lab. It asks you to upload whatever image you want that you want to color match. I uploaded this gorgeous Wedgewood vase or vase that my sister had picked up as the inspo color, and it'll spit out some matches for you. You can choose the lighter one, the darker one, whichever one you feel comfortable. And then it gives me a bunch of the paint recipes to match this up. So you just click on the one you want to match, and it'll spit out the paint recipes for an exact match. It'll also give you some alternatives. So if you wanted it to be a little bit more purple, a little bit darker blue, it will give you some alternatives. Now, I didn't want to use the chalk paint because I have silk paint on hand. So I hit the silk paint tab, and it gave me the perfect 50-50 mix. 50% salt water, 50% Cape Current. I had both on hand, so this was an ideal Wedgewood custom color paint mix. And as you can see, it's so easy to do. To mix the perfect custom paint color by using an online tool, it alleviates all the fuss and mess of grabbing all your paints and trying to color mix them yourself. So I'd rather let a free program do the dirty work. And this is a free online color lab tool you can use. And even if you don't use Dixie Belle paint, it will give you the colors that you need to go purchase from, say, your local craft store, or maybe your local paint store. So you can just match up the colors that it spits out. There are a few other free online tools. Trycolors.com is an awesome free alternative. Gradients.app and Sherwin-Williams color tools. You can play around in there. And I also believe Benjamin Moore and other larger paint companies have them as well. So these are all free tools you can go use to get your custom paint color. So I busted out the salt water. I also picked up the Cape Current, and it was time to open them up and give them a good mixing. I had a couple of older jars on hand as well. And here's a quick tip on how to measure your paint without pouring it out into any sort of measuring cup. I just took 2 stir sticks or popsicle sticks from the dollar store. I plunk them into the paint, make sure that the paint stick is totally upright, and you put it to the bottom of the jar and you lift these paint sticks out. Now here you can see that I had more Cape Current than I did salt water. So I knew I had to open up the fresh jar of saltwater paint and add a little bit more to create that 50-50 mix. Once I had my measurements spot on, I poured the salt water into the Cape Current and gave everything a really good mixing. And check this out. It's starting to look like Wedgewood Blue. So now I was ready to paint. I like spraying my brush or misting my brush with my water mister. It's not needed with this Silk all-in-one mineral paint, but it does make the paint glide on beautifully. And I dipped my 2-inch short brush in and started giving this piece a paint job. And this paint lays very well, so it does not show any brush marks. I'd say it probably has about a 3 to 5 minute open time, so you don't have to rush with it. But of course, the faster you lay it on, the faster you smooth it out, the better results you will get. And the way I like doing it, as I'm showing you here, painting the top of this side table, I just like getting the paint on. I give a fair amount onto my brush, put it on the tabletop and start smoothing it out and evening the paint distribution out. And then once I've laid all the paint on, then I go back and actually smooth it out going one direction, and I go right across the tabletop to smooth out all that paint perfectly. I find this is the best way to lay the paint really nicely so you don't get any brush marks at all. Once I finished painting the top, I started painting the underlip of the side tabletop and just kept on going until I laid the first coat of paint onto this side table. And as you can see with me painting the front panel of this side table, my first coat I'm not overly worried about. The main objective is to get the paint in all the crevices and get that paint on. Once the paint is on, then I worry about smoothing it out. So I don't go in thinking that it needs the perfect brush strokes right off bat. I lay the paint down, get everything covered, and then I go in and smooth everything out. Now, this is the way I enjoy doing things and I get the best results, but the more you paint, the more you'll find your technique. My technique will not be yours, and yours will be different from somebody else's. So you have to find what's comfortable for you and what gets you the best results and the smoothest finish for your paint projects. Also, the amount of paint you need to apply or what works for you comes with experience as well. I think I mentioned in one of my other videos, somebody commented on, oh my God, you don't need to put that much paint on your brush when you're first applying your first coat. Well, no, you don't need to. You really don't. But that's the way I like doing it. So don't let anybody direct you on how you get the best paint results is what I'm trying to say. Play around with it. do what makes you feel happy and what gets you the best paint results. That could be maybe your first coat, you're applying a very, very thin coat to your piece. And then maybe your second coat, you want to apply a little bit more. Maybe your first coat, you will stick your brush right in there and go at it and then smooth it out afterwards, as I like doing. But you are going to have to play around and find out what your best finish, like how to work your best finish. And it will be different for everybody. So for somebody to tell you, you have to paint like this or you have to paint like that, no. Everybody's different. Find your own technique that works for you. And here's another perfect example. When I paint legs or anything kind of in a circumference or rounded area of a piece of furniture, I like using the slap it on technique. And this works beautifully for me. I have very little paint on the paintbrush, like very little. And then I go ahead and slap that paintbrush onto the legs. And this gives me a perfectly brush-free finish. Like you will not see any sort of brush marks in this finish. And I have a blast with it. I have a lot of fun with it. So, I mean, this may work for some people and not for others. But again, find your own technique of what you have fun with and what works for you. So once I had 2 coats of this custom Wedgewood paint color painted on this piece, it was time to add a little final detailing. And I busted out my, it's like a scrap mold box. I actually had previously casted a lot of these molds with resin. They've been sitting around for years. And then if I have little bits and scrap pieces, I put them in the box as well because I'll always find use for them. So I busted this out and grabbed a couple of the resin molds that I really like the looks of. They're so old, they were dirty and dusty, so I gave them a really good cleaning with some soap and some water. I took the excess casting resin off them, and I just cleaned up a good few of them so I could decide on which ones I wanted to use on this side table. And as you can see, I'm using my bar of scrubby soap, and this stuff is awesome. It cleans the paintbrushes beautifully. It cleans the sink beautifully. It cleans resin molds beautifully. If you haven't tried this scrubby soap and you are into painting furniture or into using paint for projects, it's a great addition to have for your cleanup process. I find it's so easy to use. The scrubby brush is like it's included within the soap. So, I mean, it really scrubs. It does an awesome job. I'll include a link down below along with all the other supplies for this project. But if you're interested in giving it a try, I'll include that down below. So I laid the resin molds on a towel just to dry them off. And the following morning, I came down and decided which ones I was going to use. Now, I wanted to use contact cement glue to glue these on. However, the day before was a Civic Holiday here in Canada, and the stores weren't open, and I did not get a chance to go buy any more additional contact cement. So I ended up using wood glue. Not ideal on resin molds. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna have to re-glue these on because it's not sticking like I wanted. The edges are not totally glued down, which is not ideal. But for the sake of getting the blog post out on Tuesday, I used what I had on hand, but this will need to be revised. And I love the larger resin moldings. They're just beautiful. They really, really are Wedgewood inspired. I think once it's on, it looks gorgeous. So I ended up gluing these on. I used a brush to remove the excess wood glue around the sides. And I used green painter's tape to hold everything in place so these would actually glue on. And as you can see, it didn't work. So I added more wood glue and again used the painter's tape to hold it in place and let all that dry on. I also ordered magnetic door latch system, which I thought was a great idea. So there was no knobs or handles on the outside. I ordered them. I was going to install them, but my sister has taken a look at this piece. She loves it, but she wants knobs. She does not want the door latch. So I'm going to have to find some white knobs for this piece as well. Anyways, let's take a look at the before. And here's the after. And I do love this custom color. I mean, this piece does need a couple of tweaks, but the color spot on. And I really hope this tutorial has given you some ideas for your custom paint colors. Please feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you have any other programs online programs that will help people help with their custom mixing of paint, I would love to hear what you use down below. You can also find me over at salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 500 furniture painting tutorials teaching you how to make your furniture beautiful. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous week. Bye, guys.